My name is David Livingstone Smith. I'm a professor of philosophy at the University of New England in Biddeford, Maine. As a philosopher coming to the question of human nature, I'm inclined to ask a much more general question first. Leaving the human to one side, I'm inclined to ask, what is it for anything at all to have a nature? So let's consider a non-human example. Let's consider silver. We could say that it's the nature of silver to be thermally and electrically conductive, to be highly ductile, to be soft, to be non-reactive, and so on. In other words, we could cash out its nature as a list of properties that are relatively easy to observe. However, natures are supposed to be more than this. They're supposed to be explanatory. They are supposed to be deeper facts that tell us why things behave as they do, not just lists of properties, behaviors, attributes. So in this sense, the nature of silver is what causes properties like electrical conductivity. And in the case of silver, this nature lies in its microstructure, in the particular configuration of the 47 electrons of the silver atom. Now, there are a couple things to notice about this. One is that the fact that silver has a nature does not imply that it always behaves in exactly the same way. Heat it up to 1763 Fahrenheit, and it melts. Heat this ring to 1763 Fahrenheit, and it loses its lovely circularity and melts away. Silver always behaves in the same way under the same external circumstances, and importantly, it cannot behave differently. A silver bar cannot not melt at 1763 degrees Fahrenheit. Its melting point is just not up to it. Human nature is sometimes used to refer to broad commonalities among varied human beings. This is analogous to describing the nature of silver in terms of its stereotypical properties of ductility, conductivity, etc. As such, this notion of human nature describes but does not explain features that many human beings have in common. However, the term human nature is also, and I think more often and much more problematically, used in an explanatory sense. It is supposed to refer to the deep properties that account for these more superficial features of human beings. Used in this sense, our human nature often is assumed to be immutably fixed in our DNA, although, of course, there's actually nothing that is in our DNA except the atoms that make up our DNA. This idea is misleading and can even be dangerous. DNA is not by any means a biological counterpart of microstructure. Silver atoms, for instance, are constituted by their microstructure. But human beings are not constituted by their DNA. Rather, DNA makes a causal contribution to the phenotypic characteristics of human beings, including their behavior in some sense. But this relationship is causal, not constitutive, and it's not very well understood even now. Unlike elements such as silver, human beings do not always behave in the same way in the same circumstances. Our behavior is, in a very important sense, up to us. We have enormous, in fact, unparalleled behavioral flexibility. Our nature, then, is malleable, unlike the nature of silver. So, the notion of human nature should be used, if it's used at all, very cautiously and in a descriptive rather than an explanatory way. Otherwise, I fear we will find ourselves imprisoned by limiting beliefs about ourselves and left with an impoverished conception of our human potential.